Those of you who watch my videos know that I usually have a duck sort of subtly sitting in the corner. Today, though, these ducks are going to be the focus. Let me introduce you to Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria and his wife, Empress Elizabeth, affectionately known as Sisi. The emperor met young Elizabeth when she was only 16 years old, married her. She was not ready for court life. She was said to be the most beautiful woman in Europe, and the public fawned over her. This is her most famous portrait. Note the waist, apparently 19.9 inches. That's because she always wore a corset, and she paid tremendous attention to her figure and her diet. Although she didn't like the public fawning over her, nevertheless, she catered to it. And she wanted to stay young. So she followed a diet that very often was nothing but meat broth. Today we would probably call her anorexic. But she also did some other interesting things in her quest for youth. She had a gym built in the palace. Now, this was remarkable at the time. Here it is. It can be found in Vienna today in the Royal Palace, just as it looked back in the 1850s. You can see the rings with which she exercised, the climbing wall, and various other kinds of exercise equipment. This was very unusual at that time, certainly for an empress. She was extremely proud of her long hair, which reached down to her ankles. Every day it would take 3 hours to comb her hair. Every 3 weeks it would be washed. That would take a whole day. The washing would be done with eggs and brandy. Brandy had alcohol that would remove the grease, and proteins in egg would give it some sort of luster. She also paid attention to her face. Although she didn't use any colored cosmetics, she believed that beauty should be natural. But she did something else that was interesting. She actually used strawberries, natural, mashed them up, made a potion of them, smeared that on her face. This was her beauty regimen. You know what? It had some scientific sense because strawberries contain alpha hydroxy acids, and those can cause a turnover of the cells on the surface of the skin. In fact, today, women purchase creams that contain alpha hydroxy acids for the same reason. She had another concoction made from snail mucus, and today we're finding out that also can have some beneficial effects on the skin. So the Empress was a very, very interesting person. She didn't like the life in the palace, and she basically scooted around Europe for most of her life. She traveled to Greece, she had a palace at Corfu, and she was loved in the Austrian Empire. And people, of course, constantly were talking about her beauty, and her presence was very much appreciated at all kinds of royal gatherings. But what is interesting for us here is that this was way back in the 1850s, and she paid all of this attention to anti-aging regimens. She never allowed a photograph of her to be taken after she had passed the age of about 30 because she wanted to stay young forever. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. At the age of 60, she was assassinated by a deranged anarchist. But today, in the eyes of many who visit the Sisi Museum in Vienna and who read books about her history, she has in fact stayed young forever.